From the Sunshine State, this is Tampa Bay's Tan Talk.
Welcome to Random Talk. I'm Jim Arnold, the collectaholic, and I collect it all. And my cohort in crime,
Dr. Paul Cox from Newport Richey, Florida.
and we're here to give you all the scoop in the neighborhood.
And we have some scoops this week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what's the scoops this week? You've been
Well, right
using
off
your
the bat.
you've been using your pooper scooper out there with the dogs
Out
on the island out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, out on Sandbar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear there's a petition to get
Petition.
everybody to clean up and
well,
not bring dogs out there anymore, but that's not going to fly.
It's you go out on the sandbar. It's like being at Rotary Club.
It is
There's
not going to fly.
little clans of people out there sitting in a circle, and you feel the Gulf Stream coming your way.
Yeah, well, you've got dogs, and you take your dogs out to the Sandbar.
Yeah, my daughter has diapers on them and everything else.
Yeah, right. But anyway, as we know, that is never going to happen because everybody likes going out there so they can take their dogs and run them.
That's right. Well,
So-
you're out there, you're barbecuing, the dog's running around biting people, and it's a pleasant Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a little aggravating if you don't have a dog, but if you have a dog, it's necessary. So I just don't even get involved in it and just let it go.
Hey, we were talking about before. What was the ad about anyway that we saw? Anyway, I said I thought the Nintendo 64. That was a gray 64 machine. That was like I thought there was like 6 billion total sold, but you said there was 30 million.
32 million. 32, actually almost 33 million sold.
Right. Well,
Worldwide.
my company actually used to do all of the repairs for those once they start coming out. And I know how we were talking about that kid about going to the CES show, Consumer Electronics Show,
Yeah.
which is in Las Vegas in usually in January. You see all kinds of stuff there. I used to see literally platforms of these guys that are developing Nintendo 64 games, and you could play all these games, and a lot of these games, most of the games never got into development because Nintendo didn't pick them up. These were independent developers,
Yeah.
and they had all kinds of stuff. They had when the CD first came out with digitalized music, this machine that made the CD was huge. It was about the size of this room, and that's what it looked like when it first was developed. And then at the end, you would get digital music. And of course, look at it now. You can go out and buy a CD player for $10 or something.
CD, who has one of those? MP3.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
that CD player
little
gone,
thing
man.
that's-
Now it's really digital, but it's just interesting to go to that show. You see what's in the forefront 10 years from now, and we should probably go there.
hey, have you been watching that Cosmos show on TV?
Cosmo. Oh, with
National Geographic?
Oh, I thought you meant Cosmo Kramer.
No.
With Seinfeld. No. What's it about?
It's really interesting how the Earth was formed, how the universe was formed.
Cosmos with that physicist or
Yeah, he's really good. Some black guy is really excellent on it. But last night was the real, true hitting you right in the face. And he walks into this big hallway and he says, "This is a hall of extinction." And he's looking in this hallway and there's nothing there. And he said, "This is where we're headed. We're going to be in this hallway and there's going to be nothing because we have really slacked off on preparing for the next asteroid hit. And then asteroid hit is what's going to change the Earth as we know it. It's coming.
Really?
And every year you hear, oh, wow, there's one that's out there. We see it. But it was really interesting last night.
We just reported on it here a couple months ago, the one miss.
Yeah, it was a close miss. So anyway, he's talking about, he's in this big empty hall, ballroom type, museum type place, and he said, this is what we have to offer for future generations, and it's nothing. And we haven't taken the care to plan on what's going to happen when the next asteroid really hits, and it always does hit. It's just
a matter
the
of time.
timeline is just stretched out. So, and it shows how, the dinosaurs, everybody gets wiped off, and
billions and billions of years.
We're going to have to make a good movie about something like that, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Make a movie about an asteroid hitting and how life would be.
People just don't realize, we're just a minute speck, a mere bag of shells in the universe. Hey, call on in at 727-441-3000. We'd love to have you join us. I was watching one of those shows, and the physicist was explaining, on Star Trek when they beam themselves up and stuff.
Yeah.
They actually are experimenting with this at like UCLA and MIT. And he was explaining how they actually take some atoms, and they would break down this substance in molecular form and transmit it to the other college, and that college would put it back together in this form. Now, they haven't taken like a bottle cap here and done that, but now with this it's making advances like, wow, could we really do that? Could we really
transport inanimate things from one place to another?
Right.
I don't think we'll ever be able to transport animate things, because how can you transport? I think we can
Like your
recreate
brain?
what's here to there. Yeah, what
take apart
the memory,
your brain?
the
Yeah,
memory,
your
and
memory.
the thoughts in the brain. You see, that's what I'm thinking.
And it's just kind of I just looked at that and it was like, wow. Because, your smartphone actually comes from, Steve Jobs got that idea from a Star Trek episode where they were using pads on their, and they used to spell it PADD on a Deep Space Nine. And
well, we got the flip phones, that was just like it.
And
Where they
yeah,
would
but
flip through the flip
it
phone.
wasn't until, we really got a regular screen.
My
here.
friend Jerry Dodd still has the flip phone.
Yeah, I thought he still had one of those brick phones.
He had, yeah, right. I remember those.
Yeah, remember
I had
those
one of
brick
those
phones? You had to have everybody with. You bought the phone and they gave you a knapsack to carry it in.
I had one in my car, and it was like $1,200 a month.
Yeah, you bolted it to the floor.
Oh my God!
I remember that.
But I tell you, I lived here on the West Coast, and I would drive every day to Orlando, and I was on that phone from the time I left in the morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I think the quality was good.
Quality was fine.
Yeah, I never had any trouble with the quality, and I definitely, when they first came out, I got it.
It was just the phone bill.
Right.
Now we've got the phone bill. Call anywhere you want, and it's $35 a month.
Right, and if you get like mine, I think is about that, and then if you add additional phones, it's like $7 to add on a phone.
I did that Sprint family deal with my kids and
So you got
family.
You're on
So we
Sprint.
each one of those, yeah, and
I'm on 18,
and it's $35 a month for all the messaging you want, up to 1 million something or other. But they said I don't ever use
any
it.
trouble. My trouble, and Steve Jobs said this about. They interviewed him when he came back. He worked for Apple. He founded Apple, and then sold all his. He left. They got rid of him, voted him off the board, and he sold all his stock at that time and invested in Pixar Studios.
Is that right?
He sold everything, and then Pixar. He invested it all in Pixar, and he was a billionaire at that time. And then Apple went down the toilet, and they they brought Steve Jobs back because Apple went down the toilet. So at the meeting where they brought him back, everybody got up and gave him a standing ovation, and he had some new products that he had the iMac, and then he wanted to introduce a friend. Now I don't know if are you a Mac man or a PC? You're a PC.
I'm a PC guy, but I always like Macs.
He wanted to introduce a friend, and his friend had invested $600 million into Apple, and it was Bill Gates. And everybody, like, what's going on? Because back then, PC and Mac were like enemies. They were arch enemies.
Well, Mac was all in the colleges and stuff. So when I was taking computer classes, we were all in Macs.
Back in the day, Mac was it was the first desktop. They invented the desktop as we know it today. They invented a printer where you have actual figures on the printer instead of just regular print. They actually had photographs and pictures on the printers. They invented a lot of this stuff, and Bill Gates, Windows actually tied the computers together, and the government went with Windows, and that's really what developed it. But I see Bill Gates sold off. He became the second largest owner of Windows stock. He sold off 20 million shares last Friday. He's in his thing to get out of the stock completely by 2020.
I'd be cashing out too.
They haven't done anything their product hasn't done anything in many years. But anyway, you know what else is for sale? He wants to sell off his stock so that he can go buy Dracula's castle. Dracula's castle is for sale for the right price.
What country is that in?
It's, let's see, I think it's in Austria. And Bram Stoker, it's said that in his description, and it's called the Bran Castle, actually. And it's got, if you read the original, it was built in 1377 and completed in 1388. And if you read the actual Bram Stoker's Dracula, the one he's describing in there is like this castle. It has 57 room on 22 acres. And they are hoping to get $135 million. And now the Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler,
wasn't he the original Dracula?
It was suggested that was the name because he used to eat he was like a cannibal, and he used to drink
Hannibal
blood.
Lecter.
But kind of like that. But he was suggested that he was in prison there for 2 months, but he didn't actually live there. And so basically, the one thing though that at the bottom it gets 560,000 paying. That's thousand. I'm not making a mistake here. Paying tourists a year. That's a lot of tourists. I figured paying $6 a piece. That's a lot of tourists. But of course, to get $135 million, you need a lot of tourists. Plus, to keep that place up, you got to probably really up. The one thing though you don't want to do, and I saw this, is that when you go to the bathroom, you got to be sure to look in the toilet.
Oh.
Because somebody sat in a toilet and a python bit him in the leg.
What's a python doing in a castle?
I don't know. Trying to get a dungeon.
Uh-huh.
Did you know the British are using so much cocaine now that it's detectable in their drinking water?
Yeah.
Now, most people don't know this, but the drinking water that you drink today, it has to fulfill guidelines that the federal government has for chlorine, fluoride. That's so people that don't brush their teeth get this. Now, I used to say all the time about 10 years ago that all this bottled water and stuff was crap. They just pull that out of the drinking water.
Right.
And people used to criticize me all the time. Well, basically, your water's got these chemicals in it just like the federal government wants. But I guess in Britain, the water's so bad that it's got actual cocaine in it. You can actually detect the cocaine in the water. And I don't know if they actually have anything else. I didn't realize they had such a bad drug thing going on over there in Britain. Did you?
I don't know if it's so much that or that the water isn't being filtered the way it should be, or needs to be.
Well, you would think they'd be up on all that. It is the 21st century here.
Well, it's like somebody takes all their medicine and dumps it in the sink, and it goes into the sewer, then it goes to the sewer plant, and then it gets mixed up and broke down and everything else, and they don't filter everything out. They don't get it.
Right.
They make sure there's no disease in it.
I thought I thought that's where that, that Brit filter. Haven't you ever seen that Brit filter?
Brita.
Yeah, isn't that about the British filter?
No, that's not about a British filter. It's the Brit filter. I have one of those, and the water tastes refreshing coming out of it. But
I always thought the water over in Britain was beer.
I think that's what they try to drink a lot of over there. But hey, did you hear that we had another deadly Middle Eastern virus in the United States?
I did. I actually read that. And I don't remember if I brought it up last week or not, but this guy came into the country from Saudi Arabia.
It's a healthcare worker.
Yeah, he was a doctor over there helping out, and he came into the country from London to O'Hara Airport, and then took a bus to Indiana. It's the first.
He was in Saudi Arabia first.
Right, and then he went to London, and
yeah.
then he came to O'Hara, and I took a bus to Indiana, and it's the first of this. What's it called? MERS.
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 The MERS
It's like
CoV.
it's a camel virus, and and now I didn't hear anything about it. They got him. They put it in the hospital.
He's healthy. He's out of the hospital now.
Okay. Well,
now we got a second one.
Now we got a second one, and it's in Orlando. That scares
correct.
me. Because Orlando's a tourist location.
Everybody goes to Disney World. Do you know anybody that hasn't been to Disney World?
No. Cedric, never been there.
Cedric's never been to Disney World.
But he can tell you some good bars around there to go to.
I can tell you some good bars around here.
You can tell me some good bars around. Where?
St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa.
Yeah. They got there's one in Disney World that you got to wear a Sherpa, like a fur cloth. That's called the Ice Bar.
I've been there many times.
Yeah, I saw that. That
Yeah,
looks
I've
cool.
been there.
I've
looks
been there
cool.
many times. It's really neat. You go in.
Oh, nice of you
And-
to invite me.
And
Oh, wow.
I've been there twice, and they give you it's like $10 a person to get in, and they give you these really heavy
Bigfoot
jackets
coats.
and fur coats and stuff. The girls get big fur coats, and for $20 you can upgrade to a really nice fur coat. And they give you gloves, and then you go inside this room, and they've got big blocks of ice that have been carved out into a seat, and then they've got this skin laid on the seat, and you sit there in this big seat. We take pictures, and then you're drinking shots. You can drink whatever you want, but if you drink shots, everything's made out of ice. So,
Yeah, the shot glass is made. I saw that.
yeah, and it's really cold in there. And I just hang out and wait for all the girls to come
their
in.
tagline is where everybody's an abominable snowman.
Yeah.
And you go in there and they give you a cape to put on, right?
No, they give you a coat, a real coat. You're warm, but it's cold. You can see your breath, and so you sit in there
I've
for
always
about
wanted to
30
try
minutes.
that place. We went there to the Comic-Con, and I wanted to try that place, and I couldn't get my buddy to stop. He's like, "Oh no, I don't want to go there."
It's right down the street from Senior Frogs and
Right.
the Ale
I
House,
said it's
right there on
on
International Drive.
Right on International Drive. And I said,
If you go, look in one of the coupon books there, and they've got coupons that's half off, so you can get in cheap.
yeah, you get half off a shot, so they give you a half a shot instead of a full shot. They said that the people from Europe don't know the difference anyway.
Oh wow.
Anyway, a couple weeks ago,
You know,
we-
hey, speaking of drinking, what do you think the drunkest? What's the drunkest country in the world?
I don't know.
Well, it's probably. What do you think? Russia is like the drunkest country in the world, behind Germany and Finland, Denmark. U.S. is like 12th. So, if you want to see a bunch of drunks, go over to Russia, and you'll see them. And now the Ukraine is picking it up in the Baltic states. So there was also in the news. I always wanted to try that ice bar. Every time I'm over there, I want to try that. I got to go over there next week, so maybe I'll try it next week. We don't have any around here, do we?
Ice bar?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'll look.
Maybe they ought to open that up where we live up there.
There's not enough people up there. You need a lot of people.
Yeah, you act like we live in a farmland or something.
We do.
Call on in, folks, at 727-441-3000. We'd love to have your voice on the Random Talk. You know, also I saw in the news, and I saw this. They found recently, not last week, but recently they found a little piece of papyrus, which is about let's just say the size of your hand, so everybody can figure the size. On this piece of papyrus, it says Jesus's wife.
Oh, I've heard this before.
Yeah,
The theory that Jesus married and had
no,
kids
no,
and
no.
stuff.
I watched this show. This show was on the Smithsonian. Actually put a documentary together on this. But it's recently that this was found. The woman that works for the Smithsonian, somebody sent her a document with this in it, and they're anonymous. They don't want anybody to know who they are or anything. And what it was, this was found in one of these. If you know anything about this, in Egypt there was a lot of monasteries in the medieval times, as Christianity was forming before the church was actually formed, before the Catholicism started in 300 to 400 A.D. In this time period from after death to 400, there was a lot of monasteries started in Egypt, and where they just devoted to religion, but a lot of different kinds of religion, kind of like Protestant church. Well, the one at Oxycodone. He's already got it looked up. So, yeah, you can tell they found this in the trash there at Oxycodone. Thanks. Now we're going to have all these Egyptians calling in because we're calling their town by the wrong name. But it's similar to that. And but in the trash there, they found a lot of this stuff. And back at the turn of the last century, or the late 19th century. They found pieces of the Gospel of Thomas there. Well, they think that's where this was from, and they tried authenticating it. They authenticated of course, the Catholic Church says it's fake, and what all it says in it is it says they call it the Gospel of Jesus' wife, and it's a new gospel. The word gospel means good words, and it's good words about Jesus. And it's all it says. It says, Jesus said to them, my wife. That's it. Okay? The church says this is an absolute fake. Well, after all the testing, they did the DNA on it. They did a carbon dating on it. They took the print, some of the print, they extracted the print, and the ink that was used on the print, it all dates about 400 AD. So it's authentic, and it's earlier than the actual earliest Bible that we have. So it just adds a little bit more to the story of the Bible. You know, what is the story is the question. And really, we don't know. We're being told one thing, but really this just adds to the history, and it adds to the mystery of the Bible. And of course, on that note, Dan Brown has got a new novel coming out, you know, about the Jesus' wife and her adventures through the wilderness. And I think Disney was going to make part of their new Star Wars going to have something like in this, including in their story. So, what else is happening in the news?
Well, the rapper who severed his penis got it reattached, and he says he's okay. He's good to go.
But he said he's crying, though. He's shooting blanks all over the place.
Yeah, he can't have any more kids, but...
Wasn't he depressed because he had kids or something like that?
He had 2 daughters, and then he had another one on the way, and they said that he was high on marijuana, but I've never known that to be effective to causing you to cut a limb off or something, you know? And he had it reattached, so he's good to go. Everything's all right.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that guy. He severed it and jumped off a roof or something. And
yeah. Second-story building.
He's back. He's been in rehabilitation. And this is a new rehabilitation that they got going now. I saw this, and this guy picked up one of these. And they got a robot now that works with these guys. And they attach the robot to them, and it... works him out every 2 hours, and till he gets back to normal. And he said he's still having trouble, but he said he should be back to his old self soon. A weird thing is that I was watching the news yesterday. Women that are going to have children today are more likely to die today than they were 20 years ago.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's kind of doesn't that sound weird to you?
Yeah.
And that's U.S. women, not out of the country, are more likely to die in childbirth today than they were 20 years ago. A study found they've seen a decrease in other countries of deaths. So we're actually getting worse than some of these other countries. They're saying, this could be to obesity, diabetes, older women giving birth, and C-sections. But it just seems kind of like a weird thing. I thought healthcare was getting better.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the C-sections and all like that, but... not doing C-sections or trying not to do C-sections because it makes the women stay in the hospital longer, and so many things can go wrong. And now I just heard Morgan and Morgan doing something about
They do C-sections, huh?
should you have, if something goes wrong and you didn't have a C-section in time. So, it's a catch-22 deal. You just have to be. That's why the pediatricians make so much money.
Yeah.
OBGYN,
Well,
they make that kind of money.
I do know a lot of them are going out of business because they can't get insurance anymore.
They don't want that responsibility. It's a hard responsibility. Do I do a C-section? Do I let the baby come, or keep, working the mother trying to have this baby naturally? I don't know, but I do know that in my clinic I have.
You do C-sections?
No, I see a lot of women who have
You
been
see
through
a lot of women?
who have been through natural childbirth. And all these women are happy, said it's the best thing they ever did. So I really, and there's a lot of them. I mean, I just happen to get just a few, but I know that there's quite a few women that are going through natural childbirth. Mila Kunis is going to have her baby.
Well, would you say most women do natural childbirth, or they?
No, I don't. That's a toss-up because I think my son was. We were in St. Joe's Hospital, but my son came naturally. Really, I was right there to catch him. So
you caught him?
Yeah, I caught him.
Did you cut the cord?
I did not do that. No.
That's the whole problem, Paul. You haven't cut the cord yet.
Yeah.
You need to cut the cord.
Right. Are you hearing that, Evan? Okay.
Yeah, I need to cut the cord with mine. Huh. And here's the. You see this couple that they got sued for $2 million because they were cooking a squirrel in their apartment, and they went to take the squirrel off the burner, and they were eating it, and the burner started on fire and burned the whole apartment and people's apartment next door, and so the people start suing them. Of course, the insurance company that owns the building was suing them, so they're being sued for $2 million for the squirrel cooking fire. And they're on national news now. But the guy said, look, I was just trying to. I caught some squirrels out on a hunting trip, and I was trying to cook them in the thing. He said he was upset because the pelts were all burnt. He couldn't use the pelts because he skinned them. He had the pelts on the table, tanning. He was trying to tan the hides. So there's another thing happening in our schools today. Called the Eraser Challenge. And what it is that the students, I guess, aren't using pencils solely to take notes. The game involves erasing their skin while they're saying the alphabet and coming up for a word for each letter. So I guess what they do is they start rubbing the eraser on their arm while they come up with a word for each alphabet. Sounds like a dumb game to me. Not something I want to do.
And then you get burned with the eraser.
Yeah.
When you can't come up with something.
Kid comes home, has got burns on their arm. You say, "What the hell are those?" And they say, "Not hickeys or anything, right?"
That's right. They could be.
They put a warning out to all the people out that are going out to the beach. Don't pose with dead sharks. So if you see a shark washed up on the beach, don't get on it and pose with it, because sometimes they're not dead. They're just in a free state, like a dead state, but they can come alive and bite you or something. So do not pose with dead sharks. There was one girl that posed out here, and she got on the shark, and all of a sudden the thing backed up into her, and she got her whole leg cut off. It tore her whole leg off.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know that Did you ever think that if you live long enough that your brain was just going to wear out and you just didn't have any thoughts or anything coming out?
My
in the
brain
end?
wore out a long time ago.
Well, that's not true. Nope.
Yeah, well, what happens to our brain? What happens when we get...
It's all in the work that we do, and there's a little place, there's a little Greek island out there called Icaria, and these people live past 100, and they stay healthy and fit, and they even have sex lives well into their 90s. Heart disease and cancer, it's rare. Dementia and Alzheimer's, unheard of. And everybody's trying to find out what's their secret. But you'll never see them on a treadmill or popping anti-aging vitamins or playing brain games. But what you'll see them doing is raking in the garden and making most of their own food, doing most of their own physical labor, and they don't have any cushy retirement like we said in our...
Now, are they eating organic food or...
Yeah, it's all organic. They're growing the stuff in their own gardens, but they're relatively untouched by progress. And as we know that, the modern lifestyle is not a friend to our brain. So in the U.S., we're getting sicker, fatter, more of us spending our golden years wasting away with dementia and Alzheimer's. But right now, 1 out of 3 people die with one of these brain diseases. Every 68 seconds, there's a new case of Alzheimer's.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. They say that
So-
Starling guy that owns the Lakers or whatever has
Yeah.
got brain dementia.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't be talking in
She
public.
she revives it. That girl revives it for him every other day. She comes in there and revives it for. Now I got a thing here. 5 daily exercises that will grow your mind.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go over these and let me see if you do any of them, okay?
If I agree with him.
Or whether you agree with them or do any of them. I try to do some things to enhance, I guess, your thinking. I know my daughter goes on this. There's an actual website, luminicity.com.
Yep,
And they got
seen it.
and they got like brain games to play. But these are daily exercises that can grow your mind. Now, see if you agree. Number 1, mingle with highly influential people. You are who you are today because of the nature you past experience. The mind can grow beyond its initial state if you're influenced to act upon. So that means hang around with winners, not losers. The winning attitude will rub off of you. There's a lot to be said about that. If you're hanging around with billionaires, you'll get $1 billion idea. If you're hanging around with dollaraires, you'll get $1 idea. So maybe you're better off hanging around with influential people.
Well, the story I just read about the Icarians in the Greek islands, they don't play any of these computer games. They don't even have a computer. And they don't, like I said, they're not on a treadmill. They're not popping anti-aging vitamins and playing brain games on the computer. They have no dementia and Alzheimer's in their population.
Well,
So I don't
would
know
say
if I agree
they got
with
they got a low stress. You don't think by hanging around with people, more influential people, it opens gateways up for you?
No, I don't.
Okay. Number 2, study. Whenever you study, new knowledge is being passed on to you. Knowledge is power. Remember, knowledge is the key to power, and also every mind was made for growth, for knowledge, and its nature is sinned against when it's doomed to ignorance.
Okay, well, let me comment on that.
Okay.
The latest studies out there's research going on where they pump in new and revitalized blood into your system, and that does kind of wake the brain up. But there's nothing, once we reach a certain age, we don't create new pathways. So there's nothing going to be awakened in the brain
Well,
that.
but now even your people in Greece that you're talking about, they're learning things every day by their planting stuff and learning stuff through botany and growing things, and they're living a low stress life. And
Good.
they got to be learning things and passing it on to their families. Now, myself, I am constantly doing research and looking into new things that I never knew before. I can go back, a few years, and I'm doing things today that I didn't do a few years ago because I didn't know about them. And there's stuff that I know today that I wish I knew 25 years ago. And I think life is a learning experience, and that's my. I just think knowledge is power. And the more knowledge you got, the more I know. Although I get accused of a lot of being a know-it-all. Because when people are talking about something, I know a lot about a lot of things. And that can get me in trouble. Because, when people are talking about something, I can't help myself but engage because of that. But I think that makes me a more... it makes my mind grow. Okay, here's number 3. You got to take risk. One great thing about risk-taking is it makes your heart beat faster, which not only helps you grow your physical body, but it also, more importantly, grows your mind. And I'll add to that, I think taking a risk is a good thing, but you can't just take it. You got to think in a logical manner. You are not going to win the lottery. Chances are that you're not going to win the lottery. You need to walk gradually. So you need to have a goal, and you need to walk slowly to that goal. So when you take your risk, it needs to be a calculated risk. You just can't open up a restaurant. Like we were talking about a restaurant, because you want to open up a restaurant. You need to really do your research on it. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes.
You can't just go up to the gambling table and place $100,000 on red if that's your life savings. That's taking a risk. But it's great if you win, but if you lose, you're dead. That's more like the lottery scenario where people are buying lottery tickets and they think they're going to be a millionaire. The chances of them being a millionaire the lottery in itself is a bad thing. I mean, the company that does the lottery makes 70% of the money.
Do they?
They do. It's really a ripoff. Now, it's a great thing for the kids that get the money for their school scholarships. But when you think about 70% of all the money goes to the company that does the lottery, the government has a company that runs these lotteries, and there's a couple of them, and they're nationwide, and 70% of that money goes to that company. The government gets a piece of the action, and then the rest is going to scholarships for school. So anyway, would you agree that you got to take a risk?
Oh, calculated, yeah. Risk management, that's everything.
Well, did you take a risk in your business to be a chiropractor?
Always, yeah. Always.
I mean, you weren't a chiropractor. You were involved in restaurants, and then all of a sudden you made a change.
Well, it was calculated, though. I mean,
right. You just didn't... Now, my brother tried to tell me that he took a map of the U.S. and closed his eyes and just pointed somewhere, and that's where he moved to
Montana.
Yeah, and that was a lie. The funny thing, he lives in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I was talking to a buddy of ours, I think Scott, and Kim says, "Oh, we're going on vacation to Wyoming, to Marcia." She says, "Oh, really? We've been out there. That's really nice." She said, "Yeah, it's a place called Coeur d'Alene."
What?
So they went up there, and that's where they are right now. So the other thing, number 4, meditation. The mind generates hundreds of thoughts per second, and if you don't know how to quiet your mind, all the thought will come to your brain, which leads to depression. I try to myself, I try to think about. I'm a thinker, so I try to lean back and try to come up with new ideas. I try to come up with a couple of new ideas a week, and I write them down on my phone, and I try to put this into production. I have a big trouble when I go to sleep at night. I cannot sleep with the TV off. So I try to either listen to an audio book or watch TV or something, and I think that my brain is absorbing this. Do you do any kind of meditation or anything? Or do you think that's all bull?
No, I think meditation really takes away, helps with stress and brings you back down to getting the blood vessels dilated and blood flowing and things like that.
I think when you're under pressure and stress and depression, I think when you start doing a little meditating, I always try to think, don't sweat the small stuff. Is this really that bad? And it usually, you know what? The answer is no. What you're upset about really isn't a major factor. For me, usually I get depressed when I have a seizure or something because I'm an epileptic. Number 5, always think bigger. The world belongs to those that have big dreams. Well, you know me. I always have been thinking big. So I think that's a game plan for to enhance your brain. Yeah, I think key though, and we've talked about this. You really need to hang around with people that think like you do. Then you're like in a melting pot of people. That's why I hang around with you, Paul, because you're like a melting pot.
Yeah, right.
I can melt off a piece of your arm and chew on the fat on the way home. So, hey, did you see this? They NASA or the government caught this guy. He worked for NASA for 20 years, and I guess he was stealing stuff out of NASA, and he had it in his home, and he started selling some of this stuff on eBay. So the government came in and seized all the stuff in his home, and now you can buy this because they're going to have an auction. So see, it wasn't okay for him to sell it, but now they've come in and sold it, or took it, seized it, and now they're going to sell it. So you can own a piece of space artifacts from a Mercury spacesuit to Apollo 13 couches to a control panel from a Russia station, all kinds of stuff. So if you want a piece of that, I saw that auction. That auction's going to be next month, by the way. So it's on R&R Auctions. I'm actually bidding on some stuff right now that's pretty interesting. And also, for the religious lovers in the news, the historians want to claim that the Holy Grail sits in a Spanish museum. A friend of mine contacted me with this article, and I said, I'm well aware of this. This Grail has been in this museum since about 500 AD, and it's never been authenticated or anything. It's a gold Grail, and in fact, if you watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, one of the replica Grails that is in there is this. It looks like this, and there's no way that this could be the actual Holy Grail. First of all, there's no way they could ever find the actual Holy Grail because, even if it is a person, they can never find the actual Holy Grail. First of all, we don't have a DNA of Christ, So like the Turin Shroud, if they figured out beyond a reasonable doubt if it was made in 30 AD, we don't know that's Christ. It could be anybody. It's just a person that lived in Jerusalem at the time.
Right.
There's no way they can say, "Oh, that's Christ." Now the ossuary that they had that they were sending around, it said James, Christ or Jesus' brother, son of Joseph. Now, those are common names in the area, but it had a little more proof there than the other people. But this stuff it's all, but the mystery of it is what drives it. That's what really drives me to learn more about it, is the mystery of it. Is because the whole mystery of it. And then you got churches that, like we got this Ridgedale Church of Christ, it exiles the member for supporting their lesbian daughter. You know. So what, you believe in God, but you can't, your daughter's a lesbian and they kick you out of the church?
I don't know.
There again, it's back to, that's why I don't this organized religion I'm kind of against. So, but I guess coming back, I guess you got to go with these guys like this. This guy, his religion is beer, and a cop pulls him over and asks for his driver's license and registration, and he hands him a beer. And the guy says, step out of the car, please. Zip ties his hands behind his back and takes him to the police station. Don't you think that's kind of dumb?
Sounds like Alaska.
Yeah. It's dumb. Well, those guys up in Alaska are something else. They're I said to that buddy of ours that went to Coeur d'Alene, you know what the number one thing is there? Tourist attraction is there?
Your brother?
No. My brother, about a block away from where my brother lives, is one of those white supremacist camps where they do all kinds of military stuff. It's like a compound. And I remember my nephew, they used to hang out at this place. And there are these compounds, and they got guys up in scaffolding, with rifles to make sure who's coming on and off. There's about 5 of those out there. This is a big area for that kind of stuff. And they're people that want to be left alone. So I said to our buddy, what, are you going to go visit one of these white supremacist places out there?
Did you really say that?
No. But Alaska is the same thing, and Hawaii is the same thing. There are people that want to be left alone.
Yeah.
So see where my brother moved now? He just wants to be left alone. Where you were just out there where he is now.
I was in Hawaii. I was in Kauai, and the Big Island and everything. And
you know who lives out there?
Yeah, I know.
You know what our word of the day is today?
No, what is it?
You know who lives out there? Yokels. Yokels.
Yokels. Local yokels.
They're local yokels. The yokel at the gas station looked at us funny when we walked in. When I was out in Coeur d'Alene, I saw a lot of yokels. They're naive or gullible inhabitants of the rural area or small town. And the etymology of it comes from an English word called yokel, meaning green woodpecker. It was this day in 1846 that President Polk declared war on Mexico. I guess after the independent, Texas declared independence, Polk decided to declare war on Mexico.
I think it was a little more than that. I think
Santa
Ana was there, and
that was
San Antonio,
and
Alamo, and all that.
I think that was Texas, though, doing its independence.
Yeah.
And then after all that, the Congress finally voted to declare war on Mexico. Also 1981, Pope John Paul is shot. He's shot and wounded in St. Peter's Square in Rome by a Turkish terrorist. Hear that, Obama? I say terrorist, part of the Al-Qaeda. I'm not afraid to say the word. And the guy, what do you think happened to this guy?
Oh,
He was arrested
They put him in an
immediately.
insane asylum, and he's probably out now.
Right. He got out in 2010. And why would they let this guy out? Jamestown was founded today. Did you know that?
I've been to
1607.
Jamestown.
I have too.
I used to live right up
I got
the
one of
street.
those pipes, those long white pipes, and
Do
a
you?
3-corner hat.
What do you smoke in it?
Jamestown weed,
Yeah, called hemp.
hemp, very popular back in the early 15th century.
Mm-hmm.
We must all let light. What are you running us off?
No.
It's a bong. Did
Oh,
you get
okay.
that? The bong or
I thought
a
it
water
was
pipe?
horses running.
Oh,
I thought he's running us off. You know, it sounded like Wile E. Coyote.
at least that's what I would think it would sound like.
Okay. Anyway, we got,
Yeah, I really don't know.
selfishness is one of the qualities apt to inspire love, by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Some people are always grumbling because roses have thorns. I'm thankful that thorns have roses. To know oneself is wisdom, but not to know one's neighbors is genius.
Not to know one's neighbor is genius.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. I guess that's a show, Jimmy.
Well, it's another show down the chute. Glad everybody was listening in to us.
There's your horses.
There's my horses, and we're riding off into the sunset.
So, everybody, we'll be back here next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. This is Random Talk. I'm Dr. Paul Cox, and I'm with
The Collectaholic, Jimmy. And we're the lean
Mean
talking.
Machine.
See you next week.
Random Talk.
WTAN, Clearwater, Tampa Bay. WDCF, Dade City, Tampa Bay. WZHR, Zephyr Hills, Tampa Bay. Listen.